screen. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So one of the things that we want to try to do is make sure that this is an effective presentation. And as such, we've got 95 people now on the line. And it just as a matter of policy, keeping everybody on mute seems to be the best idea. That way, the barking dogs and the lawnmowers and everything else that goes on in all these great webinars that we've all been on since mid-March, we're going to keep the confusion to a minimum by keeping you guys on mute. But we do want to get your insights, and actually, so we want to get your insights. And the best way to do that is at any point in time, if you'll look at this box, this graphic at your right-hand side of your screen, you do have the ability to pose a question. Go ahead and tell, hey, Mark, you made an appearance. Everybody wave to Mark. So if you have a question, and guys, we really want those questions, so please at any point in time, type in your question there and let us know your thoughts, and we will make sure that we get those answered during the course of the webinar. Now, this webinar is being recorded, and we will be going through several links during the course of the webinar, and at the end of the class, we will email all of those links plus the link to the recorded webinar so that you can look at it in the future. Our topics, we want to give a generalized surfing lesson. We've got very experienced people present in the webinar, and we've got some new people in the webinar. So we hope to give information that is interesting to all and by looking at both our local webpage as well as SBC's webpage. And at the end of that, then Corey is going to come back and he is going to recap the May 22nd, 2019 event that occurred in, well, that affected the western part of Missouri in particular. But when it comes to it, we will use that event as a way of basically recapping the recap. We do want to look at warnings. We want to look at watches. We want to look at the other products that the Weather Service utilizes to keep you informed during the course of a severe weather event. And perhaps the most important information that we have in both tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings are the tags. And if you've been involved over the years, you're familiar with these tags. We want to go back and review them for everybody. On top of that, though, Megan is going to talk about flash flood warnings and the new tags that we have established for those warnings as well. We want to take a little bit of a look at post-event. So it's not only during the severe weather event, we want to look at post-event, because I know that that's been a question that many of our emergency management and media partners have been asking of us over the time. The major issue that we want to try to take a look at is communication, two-way communication, in order to help us get the information out to you that you need in order to make the best decisions. But on top of that, we also want to look at how we use your information as it comes in via chat or via the phone in order to help our decision making as well. And then we're going to wrap up towards the end talking about some dates of some additional training opportunities that we have for you going forward. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start our surfing lesson, if you will. Hey, there's Mark again. Hey, so when it comes down to it, let me get to our webpage. There is just so much information on the National Weather Service webpage. It's hard to find a place to start. But again, with the severe weather possibilities today, I think what we're going to show you here real quick is where we would suggest that you go to in order to quickly gain situational awareness. And I think that the number one spot that we've gone to over the years has been the HWO and the EHWO. Just because the hazard ability to be quickly outlined, what is the risks from a zero chance all the way up to an extreme chance. This gives us an opportunity to very quickly use a dashboard format over a multiple day capability to bring you up to speed as far as what is expected. And I do want to go down real quick here to our severe weather threat today as a means of quickly delineating where is the greatest threat versus an area where we might have a little less probability, but it does not mean any whatsoever, does not mean that those threats don't exist elsewhere. It's just a matter of probability when we start to indicate whether it be a limited, elevated, or significant. But on top of that, it also gives us the capability to provide a little bit of an impact as well. The other graphic I do want to point out is that we do have our spotter outlook still on our page. For the old timers out in the room, you do remember that we used to have a different capability when it came to the stat page, and that was something that it was within the next couple hours, or within the next 6 hours, or within the next 12 hours, or a time frame after that. We've just simply gone to a yes/no. Made it kind of simple in that regard. But on top of that, we do have the capability on our hazardous weather outlook in order to give an indication of what's going on to everybody. So going back to our main page, the other thing I really do want to point out is the situation report. Now, hopefully everybody on this webinar does receive through email these notifications. And obviously with the severe weather possibilities today, my phone has got a lot of dings coming in, like yours does, I'm sure, as well. So let me move that away from the computer a little bit. But the threats today are outlined in our situation report. Since mid-March, we've issued the situation report twice a day to help with COVID response. But today is really one of those days that it was purposely designed for, to give you as spatial and temporal resolution as much as possible as far as our threats. So guys, if you're not receiving the situation report, we need to know about that right away. It will include information on timing, as you can see here. Now, one of the things I do want to point out with this particular graphic, we have outlined in the hazardous weather outlook severe thunderstorms developing along an approaching cold front that's going to be moving into eastern Kansas and western Missouri late afternoon into the early evening hours. What you don't see highlighted on this graphic is the potential for some thunderstorms to start developing either near Springfield or perhaps a little east of Springfield early this afternoon. There will be the possibility that some of these storms will also be severe. But the main line of thunderstorms is where the storms are going to be most numerous and also most severe. As this line of thunderstorms moves across the Ozarks, we do want to try to provide an indication through our partners to the public over the possibility of severe weather, and then ultimately moving on to the eastern Ozarks by late evening, maybe closer to midnight. These types of things are something that we do try to highlight within the EHWO daily. But on top of that, we want to support COVID operations. And we know a lot of communities have got tents out there that they're doing testing in. And those tents, of course, are susceptible to even moderate winds. So every situation report that we're issuing twice a day is going to contain wind speeds over what we're expecting, so that to help you guys make the best decisions possible. But on top of that, you can also go to these sites that we've got listed here, so-called point and clicks. And I'm going to go back to our main page to give you a little bit of background on this. But ultimately, we've got the ability to over a dozen parameters on an hourly basis going out 7 days to give you the information that you need whether it be the temperature, whether it be wind speeds or precipitation potential. These point and click pages are very easy to be found when it comes to our page by simply clicking on this box here. Now, guys, I would love to spend a lot of time on our page talking about all of these locations, these links down here at the bottom. But really, the only other thing that I'm going to try to promote to you guys on a daily basis is to please look at our weather stories. Sometimes there's only going to be one. This particular day, we've got 4. But this is our chance to, again, provide you with updated information, very quick information. And you know, if it's meeting the mark, good. If it's not, please give us some feedback as far as the information that you see here on our webpage. With that said, I'm going to go over to the Storm Prediction Center site. I really like, let me back up, sorry, I clicked that. I really like this overview because it gives everything that you need in a very quick capability. It will show you what the day one convective outlook has. And of course, that includes a slight risk for practically all of Missouri, an enhanced risk there in the southwest part of Missouri, and then a moderate going down to the south. On top of that, then you can, each one of these folders you can go to pick up additional information, whether it be the pre-event collaboration that's going on from the Storm Prediction Center. We refer to these as mesoscale discussions, or MCDs. You'll see us talk about that in NWS chat. This is information that the Storm Prediction Center is providing as an indication over the likelihood of the development of severe weather. And that provides an early indication over whether or not they'll be issuing a watch, is a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch. They like to give a percent possibility over the likelihood of issuing a watch. So it kind of gives you a chance to get your ducks in a row before the watch gets issued. And there is some good meteorology that is shared within this document. It sometimes is quite technical, but I would encourage you to go to those mesoscale. No, there's another one that actually just got issued by the Storm Prediction Center in West Texas. On top of that, of course, they do issue all watches. You can go to this page to see those watches. And then lastly, via the convective outlook, which of course is what everybody's been going to. And Greg Sweeten, I don't know if you're on the line here, but I want to give you a shout out that I saw you posting this graphic yesterday on your social media post. On top of just the possibility of whether it be a slight chance or a moderate chance, you also did provide these graphics on your social media feed. And I want to explain these real quick. These are the chances that the Storm Prediction Center has indicated on within a 25-mile point basis of anywhere within those graphics. When it comes to this wind and hail, you'll also notice that there is a hatched area. For wind, the hatched area is an indication of greater than 70-mile-per-hour winds, and the hail is greater than the size of golf balls. So the situational awareness that it provides, hopefully very quick, it gives you an opportunity to know not only the possibility of hail or wind or tornadoes, but also the enhanced risk of those threats. Now, I'm not going to go through and talk about each one of these, but the day 1 through day 7, actually day 1 through day 8 outlooks are all available to keep you informed as far as what's going on. So I've shown you a lot of information in a short period of time. In fact, I've kind of gone over my allotted time. Mark, do we have any questions out there from anybody?
Yeah, Steve, I've been following the questions, and so far we just got one question in from Dan Scoff. Thanks for joining us, Dan. He asked about a link for the SPC outlooks that are based on the county warning areas, kind of those really zoomed in ones. I did, respond to him, Dan. We can definitely send those out to you. They're definitely a zoomed in version that are pretty nice. But that's really the only question I've got right now, other than that is the webinar being recorded? And yes, the webinar is being recorded for those that can't make it, and they can watch that at a later time. That's all I've got right now, Steve.
Okay, so as we get ready in here in just a second to go on into the next topic, the other thing I do want to highlight is we did consider putting in some meteorology as part of this conversation, looking at all of the excellent information that the Storm Prediction Center has on their site, but frankly, that's a whole different set of instruction that would take much longer than what we have. So please do look for a training series talking about the mesoanalysis, talking about things like instability and wind shear. It would have been a great day to do that because we do anticipate instabilities involving capes to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 even, and wind shears of 200, 300, 400. And if you've been in conference calls in the past, those are several of the factors that the National Weather Service does highlight during those conference calls. So in order to maybe get ready for those future calls, I would suggest that you go to the mesoanalyst page and build your knowledge of these terms. Again, CAPE and helicity are two of the most important aspects that we've got for you when it comes to the presenting a common understanding of what are the threats. So I've talked a little bit about the Springfield page and the storm predictions page. I want to wrap up my section talking about warnings. And of course, the National Weather Service issues warnings using polygons, multiple-sided objects. And here's just kind of a smattering of different warnings that we have issued over time. The one area, though, each warning does have is a storm-based approach that will tell you for every warning, is it radar indicated or observed? Is there a threat tag? In other words, no being the base warning, the considerable meaning a more potent storm, maybe an EF2 or EF3, and then a catastrophic tag that talks about the high-end threat. Think of the Joplin tornado. If we can use this system to very quickly indicate at the bottom of the warning our thoughts. Again, is it radar observed or is it spotter confirmed? Is it one of these very high-end threats? Can we indicate using hail or wind a certain above average level of magnitude? That allows the TV guys to quickly provide that information into people's living rooms. And yeah, there's a lot of information in the basis of the warning up above. So I don't want to say only use those tags, but this is an opportunity for you to quickly assess your warning compared to the base warning and also provide some specific information to the people that are following you. The other piece of information that I do want to provide, this particular warning did not list the towns in the path with a path cast. And this is something that you're going to start to see increasingly from the Weather Service when we're confident for us to provide timing into specific communities. Now, our media partners are already doing that. They have the chance to constantly update every rotation of the radar and quickly get that information out. We at the Weather Service don't quite have that capability, but we do want to employ it when our confidence is sufficiently high. In the email that we send out, I'm going to provide you a link to some additional information when it comes to these warnings. So with that said, well, actually, Mark, I want to go back to you. Any last questions as far as the material that I've covered?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So with that said, Corey, you want to take it away?
Sure. Thanks, Steve. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Let me put myself as presenter quick.
You are.
All right. All right. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Let's try this. Do you mind trying to take back control and have me?
I will be glad to. Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead and I'll get that going.
Okay.
We can see it now.
All right, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so yeah, I wanted to rehash what Steve had already talked about with all the online information and the products that we put out using the May 22nd, 2019 Carl Junction tornado as a means to show what those products look like leading up to that severe weather event. So the first time that really we saw anything from this was around day 6, so 5 or 6 days out. The Storm Prediction Center outlook suggested that there would be some potential severe weather developing across pretty much the central part of the country, nudging into our area around the later part of Wednesday into Thursday of that week. That didn't really change in terms of what we were looking at until we got to about day 3 or that a few days beforehand. Essentially, the threat had looked like it was going to be further to the west. Main reason for this is there was a focus on the Tuesday and even the Monday prior to May 22nd, where there was a lot better signal for severe weather. This was more of a conditional day that came to fruition as we got closer to the event. By the day beforehand, so on that Tuesday, it looks like we had a potential for some severe weather to set up across western portions of our CWA into southeast Kansas and western Missouri. The main focus there from our hazardous weather outlook was that we would be seeing intermittent storm activity by the Wednesday evening night time frame. And it really became evident that this was going to be much more of a severe and even a tornado threat as we got into the early morning hours of May 22nd. As you can see here in the graphic, the enhanced risk and even this hatched 10% tornado threat showed that there was a potential for a few strong tornadoes with any supercellular storms that came about during this event, as well as large hail up to the size of tennis balls and some damaging wind threats for that afternoon and evening. The threat became even more prominent from what we were seeing by models and looking at observations. By the early afternoon, we went from enhanced to moderate across southeast Kansas, western Missouri, and up into central Missouri, again with that threat for a few strong tornadoes. By midway through the afternoon, the SPC had put out a mesoscale convective discussion discussing the potential again for the large hail, damaging wind, and tornadoes, and then also put out a tornado watch across northeast Oklahoma, extending all the way through central Missouri into east central Missouri. And the particularly dangerous situation, or PDS tornado watch, is mainly issued when you have the potential for a few strong or significantly long track tornadoes. By early that evening, 7:32, there was a new mesoscale discussion. Some storms that already started developing across northeast Oklahoma and southeast Kansas. And we started to highlight the threat of potential for strong tornadoes along the I-44 corridor in the 8 to 10 p.m. time frame. And shortly after this is when we actually put out the tornado warning that included the Joplin area as well as Carl Junction by 7:54. And I really want to highlight the fact that prior to this, there was a tornado upstream over southeastern Kansas. Spotter reports and EM reports of that really helped us hone in on where the threat for the tornado was going to be over the course of the next half hour there that the warning was in effect. And of course, what that led to is we had 11-minute lead time on this warning for the touchdown of the tornado northeast of Galena, Kansas, and then about 90-minute lead time before we started seeing that stronger tornado damage in Carl Junction itself. So what I wanted to do here is just show you a quick loop. Hold on here. Of the tornado, or the storm itself, from when the tornado warning was issued through the end of the Carl Junction tornado. Really wanted to highlight the fact that the circulation on the velocity image on the right here was relatively weak to start out, but we quickly saw intensifying of this tornado structure and the rotation structure as it went through Carl Junction. And as far as the warning was concerned, we actually upgraded to a considerable tag for an intensifying tornado about 4 minutes prior to it impacting Carl Junction. All right. So as far as looking at the tornado path and the survey information for this tornado, it did become an EF3 tornado with winds up to 140 miles per hour. We did have a max width of about a 1/4 mile, and luckily, because of the advanced lead time, there were not any injuries and deaths. But I will show you, we did have some significant damage with that as well. As you can see, trees, limbs are stripped bare. You have a lot of damage to roofs, and even a garage here that was taken out completely. And this supercell actually went on to produce a couple other tornadoes too. Most notably was the Golden City EF3 tornado. About an hour later after that tornado, this one got up to about a 1/2 mile wide with, again, EF3 winds. And unfortunately, we had 1 injury and 3 deaths with this as well. And again, you can see substantial damage to the home here on the left, and then also a manufactured home that was completely wiped off its foundation. And as a whole event, that was a pretty active period, I'm sure as all of you know as well. During the entire 20 to 22nd of May timeframe, we had 14 tornadoes, 6 of which occurred on May 22nd, 2 of those being EF3s, and then we also had a tornado that started in our area near Eldon, Missouri, that tracked on and later that evening became the Jefferson City EF3 tornado. And with that, I just want to leave here the results from all of our surveys that we took over the course of those 3-day periods. And with that, also, I will kick it over to Mark here to discuss the severe weather statements, storm reports, and survey results process.
Hey, Mark, before you go to that, I do want to provide a policy update for y'all. This was not in effect the day that Corey highlighted back on May 22nd, but whenever the National Weather Service issues a tornado emergency or a flash flood emergency, we are going to be updating with a new warning if we had previously issued a lower graded warning. So if we've issued a base or considerable tagged warning and then upgrade it to a tornado warning, we will issue a new warning. So we might double up on some of your monitors, but it is something that we feel pretty strongly about in order to make sure that you are aware of what's expected and what's coming in your direction. So with that said, Mark, turn it back over to you, sir.
All right, very good. Thank you. Can you hear me and see my screen okay?
Your screen is loading. If you want, go ahead, start, and there you go.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, I've got a couple different quick hitting sections here, and we're going to go to the website here in just a second, but I wanted to talk about the ground truth process. So as we have mentioned, and a lot of studies have come out, social scientists, we continue to press and emphasize the need for ground truth. And I want to talk about the different means of how that information, once the report comes in, how that information gets transferred from how it's received to really what's the timeline of that process. So a report is received, and now most of you that are on this call either report via National Weather Service chat or via a phone number that you can call in, or other means. And I'll show you some of those other means here in just a second. So I've used an example here from an event, we got a report in. We're using Sheriff Adler kind of as a test here, as an example from an event not too long ago, where we got some information about tennis ball size hail that was occurring in Wright County. Once we receive that information at the National Weather Service, that information is then seen by the radar operator. So the radar operator is the one that's issuing those warnings and is kind of in the hot seat, if you will, for getting that information out very quickly. So that tennis ball size hail report that came in, the radar operator takes that information and updates the warning with a severe weather statement, sometimes called SVS. And those SVSs, those updated warning statements, you can see those they'll pop up in chat, they'll pop up in what will replay on weather radio, or however the way you receive that information is what you'll see here. So here's an example utilizing the information from Sheriff Adler's report. We were then able to put in the warning statement that this is a confirmed threat. So this is no longer a radar indicated hail threat. This is actually, trained spotters, someone, has got ground truth of tennis ball size hail. And so this information that's why these reports are so vital, because the information that we receive gets put into the updated warning as a statement. And then that helps everyone understand, if you're in the broadcast community, you're seeing this information and automatically seeing that the source has been changed to confirmed. It's a confirmed threat. It lets people know that, hey, this is actually occurring. I mean, this is occurring right now at this place. It increases that responsibility, it increases that urgency to take shelter. Because as we know, there are some that go through that process. They have to know, how does it, relate to yourself. So if you have a confirmed threat, then you're more likely to take action. So I just kind of wanted to emphasize and go through that process, what that looks like. So the other end of that, so after the severe weather statement, later we would then issue a local storm report. And I'll get into that in just 1 second. But really quickly here, I wanted to switch over to the website because I mentioned those other means of storm reports. So I'm going to pull up our website here that Steve had brought up, weather.gov/SGF Springfield. At the very bottom, there is a option called Submit a Storm Report. So a lot of times when we're working at the National Weather Service, and we'll get several calls, we'll get several questions about, hey, how can I submit reports today? How can I submit reports? What's the best way for me to submit a report, etc. We have this page, and this is something that we would encourage you all to share. If you've got partners, stakeholders, if you've got individuals that maybe are not in chat, or your general public that are in your community that want to send reports this way, these are some of the options that we really highlight. The top one may not be utilized that much. It is a web-based form that you can utilize to submit a report. So this is a very simple, very intuitive reporting tool, to where you can even utilize this from home, and it goes by your location. Just pick your location, pick threat, etc., and then it goes. This is kind of what the GUI looks like. I won't go through it verbatim, but it's a quick little step process. You select what type of report you've got to report, and etc. What's really nice about this is that this goes directly into our computer systems very quickly. So once you click submit the report, it pops up a banner on our computers typically within a minute. So it's another great way if someone's, for the general public or those that are not in chat or using real-time means to submit storm reports to us. Again, all these, some of these links, some of these things, don't worry about jotting everything down. We'll send this out. The page, this how to submit a storm report page, is down at the bottom left. Obviously, probably 90% of you all are familiar with Facebook and Twitter. We highly encourage those as means to submit reports. You're probably also likely familiar with the email contact.sgf. That's even for the public. The public can email those to us. We encourage all pictures. Pictures kind of tell 1,000 words, and so the more of those we get, the better off we are. There is also a mobile app. Probably, some of you are familiar with the mobile app called MPing. MPing is a very valuable tool to where you could submit reports out in the field very quickly from your phone. It's really good in the wintertime, really all seasons, to let us know what you're receiving. You can select hail sizes, you can select wind damage threats. There's a lot of different things you can utilize with this tool. So this is another one that we really encourage you to check out and promote to your partners, to everyone that you're associated with. The last one that I will mention would be, and it's not on this slide, but we really encourage pictures. We do have the office has a phone number where you can text pictures to us. And I'm going to write this number down because this is a phone number for you all. This is a number where you all can text us, or if you have someone that contacted you with a lot of pictures, they can forward those on to us. That phone number's, and don't worry, we'll send it on. It's 417-830-7659. That phone number and all of these reporting mechanisms, for that matter, are checked. We typically have someone in the office that's always monitoring, always pulling information real time. As we talked about, those are the ways we can update that ground truth. So I'm going to kind of switch gears now. Looking at that information, I want to go and talk a little bit more about the storm survey results. Let me go back to the page here. Present this real quick. This is kind of a timeline. I want to kind of give you all a general idea of what the process is when we get reports in, and then what we do with it and how more information comes out. Then I'll kind of show you some of these examples. So here's kind of a very rough timeline of what to expect after storms occur, or really after any hazardous, significant hazardous weather occurs. So you get thunderstorms that occur maybe during an afternoon or an evening, etc., and we start getting these damage reports that come in via chat, via phone. There's a lot of information coming in. May not have all the information at once, but we're trying to piece it together. Usually during the next several hours, and it really could take until the next day, we will issue a preliminary local storm report. So this is information, and that's why I like the preliminary in there, because it's got some initial information about what has happened. Maybe we've got some reports of large hail. Maybe we've got some reports of possible wind damage that might be tornadic, it might not. Maybe we already have some basic information about a possible track path of storms. So this is information that is still preliminary. Think of it as we go through a storm, after a storm occurs, especially storms that are possibly did produce a tornado. Think of it kind of as a CSI. We're trying to put all the pieces together. We don't have all the information. We're trying to vet information, look at all these different angles. So it takes time. But typically, one thing we try to get out is at least some preliminary information, typically within the next several hours after they occur, up to maybe 12 hours or so. The next day and the coming days after, we'll produce a kind of a web story, and I'll give you some of these examples here in just a moment. This web story has a lot of detailed information about the event. It's got information about storm surveys. It's got surveys that were completed. It might even have some information about storm surveys that are not completed yet, that we have more information to obtain. So kind of the time frame there, if you're looking for a lot of detailed information, we just may not have that until the next day or coming days. Also, that post-event web story, which I'll show you here in a second, will be updated as we get more information. So once you look at it once, it's not a one and done. There'll be more information that comes along as we go. And then lastly, 60 days after the month that the storm occurred, that's when all reports become certified as official. So this kind of highlights that process, that there's a lot of time there where we're going to continue to get information. We're going to vet the information. We're going to make sure that all the information is accurate and up to date as possible. So then, after those 60 days, that information is official. And I'm going to show you where you can get this information to be used for research, for maybe for the emergency management community. Maybe you're getting ready to do a hazard mitigation update and you want to look and see what's happened in your county over the last 50 years. You can take a look at that. So let's go take a look at that real quick here. I'm going to go back to our home page. First thing I wanted to look at, down to the bottom. And while we're kind of on this topic, I did want to highlight one thing. The bottom right-hand side of our webpage, there's a link called SGF Text Products. If you'll open that up, and I'm sorry if my bandwidth is slow, it's probably the kids doing too much streaming, but that's another sidebar. If you'll open that up, this is a very, very handy site to do things like area forecast discussions or daily climate products. It's kind of a one-stop shop for all of our text products. So a lot of these things will already come across in chat, etc., but some things won't. And maybe you need to go back and look for something like a local storm report, as highlighted up here under severe weather products. You could click on that and get all of those and kind of go back a certain number of frames to get what you need. Also of note is a public information statement. So a lot of times once we get some track information about a storm, about a tornado path or a thunderstorm wind path, we'll put some of that information in a public information statement. And that will oftentimes show up in chat. However, if maybe several days have gone by, you've not been in chat, etc., somebody just wants to view it, you can go to that link and you can bookmark that, and that'll always have that public information statement. There's a lot of different things that go into that public information statement, so it's kind of a neat one to highlight. So back to the main homepage real quick. So I talked about this post-event web story. So after the storm has passed, the next day to several days, we're going to have some detailed information from tracks, etc. And typically we will post that at the top of the our web page under news headlines. It'll say something like, January 20th severe weather event or tornado event. That's where you'll find that information. But let's say you wanted to go back in time and look at other events that happened. Again, page to the bottom right, there's a page called Event Reviews. Really highlights some of the most significant events that have occurred across the area, and that houses all of our post-event web information. And you can see how they're broke up into different hazardous weather categories, so flooding, winter weather, etc. We'll use this quick example here from January 10th and 11th of this year. So once you got and open it up, you'll notice there's a lot of information in here. Information from this kind of overview of the event to different tabs of information. You're going to see tornado tracks, a lot of maybe images, a radar loop, storm reports. This particular event, we had all components. We had tornadoes, we had flooding, we had snow and ice. So you can quickly go in here and take a look at that particular event. And you can see, you can go in there and look at tornado tracks. Lastly, I talked about going even further back in time. This website, which we'll also link, is ncdc.noaa.gov/storm events. This opens up the official certified, this is the official storm data information. So from the years, 1950, we talked about 60 days after, so that's why it's currently just up to January of 2020. You can go in here and pick any area of the country, or zoom into, whatever your county or area of interest is, and take a look at the events, the reports happened in your jurisdiction or your area of interest. You can select it via type. You can select all types. So this is a very, very handy tool for going back and looking at what has happened in your community during a specific time. So with that part complete, before I move on to kind of a NWS question, Steve or Corey, did I have any questions?
Yeah, we had a couple come up, Mark. There was one from Bridget Lavelle at KY3 on pictures. Bridget, as I mentioned in the private chat, anything that we put on our page is certainly public, open to the public, and therefore you can use anything from our page. There are times that we do get some material in from whether it be chasers or private citizens who do request that we do not share that, and we will not post those onto our page. But basically, if you see anything that we put in the survey page or via social media, please do take and make the best use of all of that information available. In addition to that, there was a question raised by Dan Scoff down in Northwest Arkansas over the submit a report link, and he was appreciative of that and asking if all offices do it. At this point in time, it is just Central Region offices, so stops at the Oklahoma and Arkansas border. But we will share your insight, Dan, with our neighbors to the south as well. Other than that, there was a question talking about or asking about Talkanaut, which I think is your next topic.
Yeah, Steve, thank you very much. So just very quickly, I just kind of wanted to bring up Talkanaut and Pigeon. I don't know how many, would be very curious to know how many are utilizing Talkanaut. Talkanaut, as you know, is a mobile app. There are several different apps out there that you can use, different little clients that you can use to get into NWS Chat. However, it seems like Talkanaut has been one that's been a little bit easier to utilize, and doesn't seem to have a whole lot of issues with. It's been around long enough where a lot of the issues have been resolved, and once you get it set up, it's pretty much good to go. Talkanaut is something, it'll work on both mobile platforms. It's if you search for Play Store or whatever, you could find it. It's got the little rocket symbol there. There is a YouTube video. I'm not going to play it all the way through, and we'll link this YouTube video, or you can actually search it. It was conducted by a former meteorologist here at Springfield a couple of years ago, but still very relevant and still pertains to the exact procedures for setting up Talkanaut app. The beauty of Talkanaut is that you don't have to be tied to your computer. You could be out into the field and still remaining up to date with NWS Chat. I encourage, if you ever have a question, want to get something set up or having issues, please reach out to the office. We can help you with those, direct you to the right person that can help you with those and get you through that. I will send out this YouTube link. We sent it out a couple of times in the past, but we'll forward it on. And it's just a great video that shows how to set Talkanaut up. As far as Pigeon, as you can see here, I just pulled up Pigeon View. Probably a lot of, I'm assuming, big assumption, a lot of you are familiar with Pigeon. Pigeon is, kind of more of a computer-based platform instead of a web browser like NWS Chat Live is. If you're using NWS Chat Live, that's a web browser version. This is an actual program that can be utilized for NWS Chat. So I wanted to show you just a couple things, maybe a couple best practices, a couple questions that I've received a lot of times in the past that can maybe help you utilize this best. And I promise we'll only go another minute or two here because I know my time's going long. One thing that we've talked about in the past is making it very easy to identify yourself. So as you can see on the right-hand side, once you get into the chat room, there's going to be those that have this star symbol. Those are NWS Springfield staff members. So if you're ever wondering, well, who is this, that's talking in here, these are the Springfield members. And if you ever needed to send something directly to them, you could send them a private message just by double-clicking their name, and it opens up a different box. Something that we've talked about a lot too that really helps, especially in events where there's a lot of flow going through here, probably like later on this afternoon and evening, this chat room will be very, very busy. And we'll see reports come through, and it can be difficult sometimes to realize, who is this? We know a lot of people, we know a lot of you all, but there's some that we may not know exactly what county or jurisdiction you're associated with. So I'm going to pick on this one as an example on the right. Baxter Springs Fire John Hunt. So if Baxter Springs Fire John Hunt puts in a chat of quarter-size hail at Highway Y, we're going to know immediately what town they're near. Otherwise, if we just get a report from EM blank, we may not know associated where that's at. So we've noticed a lot of these. Thank you, Keith, for doing that. Jasper County, Newton County, a lot of agencies are doing this, and we're really appreciative of those that can go in and do that. So how do you change that handle? Let's say you're already in there. How can you do that? A lot of it is in the setup phase. So let's go real quickly. You have in your preferences, you have lots of different things. One of them is accounts. If you click on accounts, and you can modify that account, and you can change your resource or your domain name to whatever you want. That's one way to do it, to where it'll always stay that way. Another way to do it, when you go to conversation and join a chat room, let's say you want to join the Springfield chat room, here's your handle. You can make that handle whatever you like. That's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. And this will also, once you do that, save for the next time. One other question I get quite a bit, especially for those that use Pigeon maybe for the first time, is that it'll keep saying someone has entered the room and then left the room, then entered the room and then left the room. How do I turn that off? I get that question a lot. That little feature in your tool, in your little icon down here, your Pigeon icon, go to plugins. In plugins, there's one called join part hiding. Kind of remember that, join part hiding. That hides all of those logged off, logged in, logged off, logged in. Plus, there's also a lot of neat little features in there that you could specialize for your Pigeon experience. So I encourage you all to kind of check those out. And otherwise, Steve and Corey, I'm going to open it back up to you to let you, see if you've got any specific questions. But that's what I really wanted to emphasize with Pigeon and Takanot. Also, you'll notice I did on the left-hand side move my different rooms. You can do that also in the preferences menu. So take a little bit of time before an event to kind of set up your plugins and preferences, and it'll get you kind of in a really good shape and ready to go. Steve, did I have any questions from Pigeon?
Yeah, no questions for you. And as Megan gets set up here, I do want to point a couple things out. Yes, please use Pigeon. It does immensely help out our servers. As you know, NWS Chat has been somewhat it's unstable. So please use Pigeon and only sign on to the chat rooms when you're needed. So try not to be a voyeur. I can't say that enough. Secondly, use handles. It helps with communication. And only use capitals when you're reporting high impact events. Only use capitals when you're reporting high impact events. We do also ask that you be professional and germane. That helps keeps the information appropriate. And then the policy thing that I really would like to try to push is if you have a report, either confirm it or list it as being unconfirmed. That helps whether or not the media should pick up on it and run with it. So with that said, Megan, you want to take it from there?
Okie doke. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I'm just going to give you a brief overview on impact-based flash flood warnings. Since fall of last year, we've converted flash flood warnings from just text-based to this impact-based format, similar to severe storm and tornado warnings. It's been successful there, so we hope it's successful with the flash flood warnings, but we use that same base considerable catastrophic tiering to better communicate the severity of the threat. Now, let me make sure I can go forward. Okay, here we go. So the main change is adding that hazard source and impact information. The upper part of the flash flood warning is going to be the same. We're going to put the county, then the expiration time, and the basis for the warning. But in the middle, you'll see that bulleted hazard source and impact format, just to more clarify the hazard and the threat. And then similar to severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings, we'll have tags at the bottom. They'll be different. They'll explain a little bit, highlight a little bit more about flash flood, the source, the damage, and expected rainfall and potential dam and levee failures if that's needed. All right, I wish I could just get my slides to forward. That's, yeah. Okay, good. Go back 1, 2, 3. Holy cow. Okay, I am a notorious fast clicker. I do not have patience when it comes to computers, so take a deep breath. Okay, so just to highlight a little bit more information about the tags. They're a little bit out of order. I put number 1 on the flash flooding source because that one is always going to show up at the bottom of the warning, and that's going to be whether it's radar indicated or observed or maybe rain gauge verified. The second tag is going to be the damage threat tag, and you're only going to see that if we have raised the severity to considerable or catastrophic. If it's just a base flash flood warning, low water crossings, low areas flooded, things like that, you're not going to see that damage threat tag. And then the last tag is the causative event tag. It will be optional if, say, we have a flash flood warning and we expect another 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, we can put that information in a tag under the expected rainfall tag. And also, if there's a potential failing dam or levee, we can add that also in that third tag. So I have a few examples of each type of warning. I just wanted to show you real quick. So this is the base warning. Again, at the top, it's going to highlight the counties affected, the time, just give a little bit about background about why we're issuing. And then here are the bullets, the hazard source and impact. And you'll see flash flooding caused by thunderstorms. This one's radar indicated. And the typical flash flood warning, lower end threshold with the flooding of the small creeks and streams, urban areas, etc. And then we still we keep those preparedness actions. And then the polygon numbers at the bottom, those are the vertices of the polygon. And then at the very bottom are your tags. So we have the flash flood radar indicated and the expected rainfall tag. If we bump the severity up to a considerable. Like Steve said, with the severe thunderstorm and the tornado, we will issue a new warning. And you'll see the more enhanced wording, especially as you get into the hazard source. It will need to be, well, it could be verified by radar. If it's middle of the night, we're not getting any reports, but typically we would be getting a lot of reports from you guys, from EMs, from law enforcement, etc. But we're going to enhance that wording in the hazard a little more, life-threatening flash flooding, and then the cause, and then on the impact, unusual and life-threatening flash flooding. So a little amp up the wording a bit there. And you'll see similar pattern as we get down to the tags with the, we'll have flash flood observed now, damage threat considerable, and we did carry an expected rainfall. You may not always see that. If it's flooding, but we're not expecting any more rain, you're probably not going to see that. And if we have to amp it up even more, this is the flash flood emergency, the catastrophic. So we'll have that header up at the top, flash flood emergency for the counties included, for areas included. In the hazard source impact section, still carry the life-threatening flash flooding. You're going to see even more enhanced wording in the impact area, though, with the capital letters, particularly dangerous situation, and that will automatically be inserted when we're generating those warnings. And again, you can see your tags there at the bottom. And one more piece of information, with the wireless emergency alerts that are on the cell phones, for flash flood warnings, only the considerable and the catastrophic tagged flash flood warnings are going to go out through WIA. However, all flash flood warnings, whether based, considerable, catastrophic, or they're still all going to go out on no weather radio. And if you have your NWS set up to receive those products, they will go out there too. If you need any more information, I have a web address here, and that's also going to be included with some information being forwarded to you guys later. A little fact sheet there. Any questions about that?
Not seeing any questions, Megan.
Okay, do I have enough time to do a quick AHIPS demo? Or do we need to put that for another time?
Go for it.
Okay, I can make this super fast too. Okay, most of you are familiar with our AHIPS website. I have it linked here. It should get me into live web land. If not, I do have other. Yep. Okay. So water.weather.gov/AHIPS gets you to the larger picture river gauges across the country. But you can get a quick look to see who's flooding by looking at the color coding. And I just don't have enough patience, I don't think. I'm gonna go here. Oh, come on. Okay, I guess it's not gonna play nice with me. I'm gonna do one more quick load. Okay. You know, I ran through this 2 or 3 times earlier this morning and it worked just fine. So anyway, we can see the color coding. Anything in green is not flooding. Anything in yellow is near flood. And then when you get to orange, that's minor flood stage. Red is moderate and purple is major or record. The first thing I wanted to show you guys is the precipitation information that's on this page. It's very nice. So if you just want to get a quick look at how much rain we've gotten over the past 24 hours, that's where this page will default to. And here's the color curve over here. This is in inches. You can zoom in and out of it. So we can zoom in over to Southwest Missouri and get an idea how much rain we got. If you want to see your county in a little more detail, you can turn on the county and the state overlays. You can also, it'll have a running total of the last 7 days. and 1430 go all the way back to the beginning of the year. Once you get past today, when you just do 714 and accumulations, you can look at departures from normal to get a rough idea. We're, 1 to 2 inches above normal north of Springfield right now. And you can also look at the percent of normal. So the percentage with respect to normal, and you can see that most of our area is still rather wet, getting 300, 400% of normal rain, at least over the past week. There's a really nice archive too. So you can look at daily rainfall. You can go all the way back, I think, to 2005. So go pick your favorite day. I just, 2017, April 30th was quite the day. Of course, most of that precipitation was received on the 29th. So the 24-hour accumulation goes from 7 a.m. the previous day to 7 a.m. of this day. So if you need that information, really nice tool. Now I want to do quick river observations. As I have about, 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, Megan, if you could wrap that up in 2 or 3 minutes, I do want to provide the save the dates.
Easily.
And I also do want to
Okay.
provide a little bit more update on the event that we expect to happen this afternoon. So the floor is still yours.
Okay. Come on. Yeah, let me just go here. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. So here are river points. So anything in a circle or a square is a forecast point. If you want to see what the river is doing, you can just hover over that location, and another window will pop up with that information. If you want to go directly and see that site's page, so here I have Shoal Creek near Joplin. You just click on that point again, and you can look. Anything in the blue is a past stage. Here's the current time, this vertical line, and anything past here is the forecast. So those are in 6-hour increments, whereas we're getting observation data 2 to 4 times an hour at post every hour though. The real neat thing I wanted to show you is where you can see the 1% chance, or what's been referred to as a 100-year floodplain. And you can see those directly on here. Scroll down just a little bit past the historic and recent stages and click on the Show FEMA Flood Hazard Layers. And this will color in all of those locations by the stream that are in your floodplain. And you can dink around with the opacity a little bit. And if you want to maybe see, well, what structures are located in there, you can switch your base map to imagery. And then you can see some potential areas that may be flooding. And you can also drag your map and go up and downstream, so you don't have to just stay at that one point. And I think I will stop there, Steve.
Okay, thank you very much, Megan. She kind of caught me looking at the ongoing weather event. So let me get my screen back up here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we've had a couple developments during the course of the hour. 1 second here. Let me get to my.
Did we get bumped into a high risk?
Man, that's a heck of a tease, I think. No, we are not bumped into a high risk.
Okay.
Okay.
I see your screen now.
So again, we want to provide a couple of wrap-up notices, and then I want to go back and talk about the ongoing weather event. With COVID, nobody knows what really is going to be going on, but if we can use this type of a medium to replace some of our face-to-face, I think the Weather Service does need to go in that direction in order to make sure that our staff remain safe and the services continue to go out. So what the dates that I have provided to you on the screen there, those might be in person, they might be via webinar. The June 3rd, however, will for sure be a webinar. That is to highlight the summer hazards. If you go into the future, November 16th, those are the winter weather services that we want to advertise as well. Now going back in time a little bit, June 16th and September 29th, guys, we'll just have to play those by ear. Those are integrated warning team opportunities to bring together all facets of operations, whether it be weather service or media or emergency management, dispatch, schools, DOT, just lots of opportunities there. And then December 7th, man, I really hope by that time we're having a chance to come back together in order to meet face to face. That second issue there I have on the screen, send us your feedback. This is a new medium for us. We're exploring. We're wanting to try to continue to advertise the products and services that the Weather Service have available to us. But it's only developed through our eyes, and without your input, your insights, we cannot improve. So please provide your feedback to us when it comes to these types of webinars. We also have been forced to make some adjustments to our decision support services due to COVID. For example, going to the SITREP twice a day. Give me some feedback on that. Have you been able to utilize those DSS services this spring? Did you like it better when we were only sending the situation report whenever high impact weather was expected, or has the twice a day production been good in your eyes as well?